Honorable Men Discord. A horse collapsed in Hell's Kitchen, New York City. Let's talk about it.
How you see yourself is how you perceived. I see a man strong, gifted, head strapping, never down on his knees, begging. Gotta make a way, even in my darkest hour. Say the odds against me was new. I would never cower.
As always, welcome back to another episode. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and by all means, join the conversation in the comment section. So, what I have queued up today is an incident that took place in Manhattan's Hell's Kitchen, where one of the popular tourist attraction is the horse and carriage ride. If you've ever been to New York, if you've ever been to Manhattan, you know they have a lot of horse and carriage rides throughout the city, particularly, I would say, mainly by Central Park. All right. In this situation, a horse collapsed and it died right there in Hell's Kitchen. All right, so let's watch the news report and we'll talk about it after.
And a warning for you, though, the details, the video disturbing tonight. A shocking moment in Hell's Kitchen earlier where a carriage horse collapsed and died right in the middle of the street. We have News 4's Chris Jose joining us live outside the stables on West 52nd. And Chris, workers say the horse was pretty healthy, but critics have pushed back.
Right, Natalie, two sides are at odds tonight. Here's what we do know. The horse was making its way back here to Clinton Stables when it suddenly collapsed and then died about a block away from us. The carriage union says the horse had just wrapped up its second ride of the day. Tonight, disturbing video of a horse laying motionless, getting dragged into a trailer on the corner of West 51st Street and 11th Avenue in Hell's Kitchen. The horse named Lady collapsing as she was heading back to Clinton Stables on West 52nd Street from Central Park just before 2:30 p.m., according to the Carriage Workers Union. TW Local 100 telling us the horse died suddenly.
Lady was 15 years old, in the prime of life. Seemingly nothing wrong with her. She just came to the city in the last 2 months, less than 2 months ago, had a clean bill of health.
Carriage industry spokesperson Christina Hansen says the horse passed its physical and no abnormalities were found.
All indications seem to be heart attack, stroke, or aneurysm.
The exact cause of death unclear and under investigation.
They said the way she went down, wobbly-legged, shaking, and then when she was finally completely down, she shook and stopped.
Animal rights advocates showing up to the stables after learning a horse had collapsed and died.
How much more death and suffering is it going to take for the city to do something?
Night Class calling on lawmakers to pass legislation that would stop the city from issuing new licenses to horse-drawn cabs. A bill called Riders Law is named after a 26-year-old horse that collapsed in 2022. Just last month, Riders' carriage driver was found not guilty of animal cruelty. Despite the outcome, Night Class renewing its effort to shut down the carriage industry.
It is literally a chamber of horrors.
Would you like to go upstairs?
Sure.
I mean, seriously.
Hansen openly showing us the stables, which 90 horses call home. She says 45 carriages operate out of the 52nd Street location, with the horses working no more than 9 hours a day.
We have 24-hour stablemen here. We've got fans and ventilation and beautiful hay. We got automatic waters. They get seen by the vet twice a year. They can't work if it's too hot or too cold.
City Hall tonight describing this as a troubling incident. A spokesperson telling me late this evening, City Hall is looking into it. The union says a necropsy will be done at Cornell. A protest, by the way, is planned for tomorrow at noon. We're live here at Hell's Kitchen tonight. Chris Jose, News 4 New York.
All right. I don't consider myself an animal activist, but then I also don't consider myself not an animal activist. And in this situation, I'm honestly just, I didn't like seeing that image. All right. I didn't like seeing that image. And here's the thing. I know that, some people might advocate for the fact that, well, if the horse was in the wild, how long would it live? It's getting, meals, scheduled meals. It's getting, is getting treatment that it would normally not get if it was in the wild. My thing is, it's 2025. You can do carriage rides with electric vehicles or something like that, or there's got to be alternatives for tourists to enjoy a carriage ride. Most of the time, it's just about seeing the scenery throughout Manhattan. It's about taking photos for reasons of, like, you know, special occasions, romantic special occasions, Valentine's Day, proposals, so on and so forth. I know I guess it adds to the photo to have a live animal, a horse, because, you know, it's old fashioned to see the horse, but I don't think it's fair to these horses. You know, she's saying obviously that they're only out there for 8 hours a day, but that's what she's saying. You know, who knows if that's even true. Then she showed the stable. It looks cramped to me. I don't know if any of you agree, but it looks cramped. All right, so you got the horses in a cage, and you got these hot ass fans blowing on the horses, which the fan blades are probably collecting dust. I don't know if she thought that was a good idea to bring the news station up there, but to me, I wasn't sold on the fact that the horses just love their environment. And unfortunately for animals can't speak for themselves, you know, and I don't like having to see the horse dead on the street. You know, now maybe the horse had a condition that they were unaware of. That's possible also, but I'm pretty sure, as mentioned within the news report, this is not the first case of something like this happening. And I don't think it's right. And unfortunately, we live in a world that's all about dollars. That's all it's about. If dollars are being made, the likelihood of it stopping is slim, because I'm sure there's under the table deals going on. You know, when one agency pops up trying to stop them, or one foundation or committee or whatever you want to call it, coalition, when whatever you want to name the group, when they form to go against a company or companies that are making a lot of money, they usually tend to die out and lose. Why? Because who knows if these companies slide little money towards public officials and say, hey, we want to keep this going, we'll look out for you. And you might say, oh, you're reaching, it's far-fetched for that to happen. Where there's money, there's corruption. Where there's lots of money, let me say, there's corruption. And as far as I know, as long as I've been living in New York City, they've been doing horse and carriage for decades. For decades. And as a New Yorker, I don't even think I've ever been on a horse and carriage ride. Why? Because as a New Yorker, you're not as... Well, for me, let me speak for myself. I personally was never as thrilled about doing it because I live in New York City. So for me, it's like I see tourists on it and their faces are glowing with amazement. But for me, it's like, been there, done that. I walk past the horse and carriages, but I do from time to time when I'm in Manhattan, which is not often. I'll pass by and I'll look at the horses and I feel bad for them, because contrary to what she said, I've seen horses out there on hot days. And whether or not they have, you know, pans on the ground for them to drink water, or they're feeding them food, hay, whatever it is, it's unfair. They're standing around waiting for the caretakers to negotiate with tourists and try to sell rides. But most of the time they're just standing around. And you might say, well, if they're standing around, then they're not working, so they're not being overworked. But they're outside in all weather conditions. And again, she's saying what she's saying, but who knows if that's true? But we have to take her word for it, right? Again, the animals can't speak for themselves. Any of you who think this is good, the whole horse and carriage thing, let me know in the comments. If you're opposed to it, let me, elaborate as to why you're opposed to it. I'm extremely opposed to it. I feel like enough is enough. It's 2025. You can still run carriage rides and still have the same... I believe the tourists will still have the same enjoyment. You just won't have the horses. And trust me, I think more people than not will understand why you stop having horses. And they will be okay with that. There will be some tourists that will say, well, whatever happened to the horses? Where are the horses? And if you explain to them that we've decided to end these tours with horses because, animal rights activists, or we just felt like it was time to move on to a new form of a presentation for that particular tour. You don't need the horses. You do not need the horses. I mean, for those of you that's been fortunate enough to visit in New York City, you know that you have human beings riding you around now in little small carts. Why? Because to be honest with you, there's way too much traffic. That's another thing too. So you're still out there pushing the horse and carriage rides. Most of them cut through Central Park. And I'm sure they do that also, not just because Central Park is a tourist area, but also because when they hit the streets, it's just too much traffic, which is why a few months ago, I want to say, they imposed laws where, depending on which part of Manhattan you're traveling, you pay a fee. And that was to decrease the congestion within Manhattan. But enough is enough. I don't like seeing stuff like this. It really bothers me. It really bothers me. It also bothers me, honestly, when animals in the wild are killed because of human negligence. You know, the animals have the right to their domain. And when we visit, for whatever reasons, to their domain, if one of us, meaning human beings, get injured by these wild animals, that doesn't mean put the animals down. Now, I understand if the animals are running wild and there's a bunch of human beings that they're attacking, then you might, to defend yourself, you'll have to do it. But remember, you went into their space, their home. Same thing with the ocean. I'm not a fan of when people kill animals because we put ourselves in those predicaments. But I'm going off subject with that. But like I said, I've never considered myself an animal activist, but after seeing this news presentation, it really bothered me. It really bothered me, and I think they absolutely need to end the horse and carriage rides. Now, for those of you, again, that disagree with me, let me know why you disagree with me in the comments. Why do you think it's necessary to still run the horse and carriage ride? This has been going on for decades, by the way. Like I said, as long as I've lived in New York City, which is pretty much all my life, with the exception of about 5 years, they've been running the horse and carriage rides. There's no need to. But that's all I have on this episode. What's your thoughts? If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. I appreciate all of you for tuning in. Stay honorable.